It's now time for the Wed-Cast, brought to you by Filmedia Wedding Videography, 3-time Wedding Industry Award regional finalist. Here is your host, James. Hello guys, and welcome to episode 7 of the Wed-Cast. Today we have got an absolute banger of a show. We will be talking to Kevin Kitteridge, who is the owner of Silverline Limousines. So Kevin's going to come on today and tell us all about booking your wedding car, the types of car that Silverline does, plus all the awards they've won and everything in between. So yeah, that's going to be an absolutely fantastic show, so make sure you stay tuned. Not just that, we also have Leo here as well. He has got a lovely question to ask Kevin. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road, because it's going to be on the road. Excuse the pun. Obviously wedding cars. Without further ado, let's speak to the one and only Mr. Kevin Kitteridge. Hi Kevin, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great, mate. Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
That's absolutely fine. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I was just saying, it's hard not to go to a wedding, especially in Norfolk, without seeing a Silverline limousine or a Silverline car. So it's absolutely fantastic to actually have you on here so we can have a chat about that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm here for. I'd love to tell you more about it, and so you know even more next time I see you.
Fantastic. So how long have you been into wedding cars? Did it start with wedding cars? Is it just specifically wedding cars that you do?
It was quite strange. I was in the car trade, and we're going back to 2012, and a friend of mine had 2 limousines. These are the stretch limousines that he was trying to promote for weddings. He decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He asked me if I'd like to buy them and sell them on, or if I'd like to have a go at it. If I'm honest, at first he asked me for about 3 months, and we kept saying no. And then suddenly Diane and I thought to myself, well, we will give this a little bit of a go. So we bought them, and then we started with 2 stretches. We started with which really was the flagship and possibly still is, which is we started with a stretch Hummer and a stretch Chrysler limousine.
Nice.
And from there we just slowly built up. It took about 3 to 4 years to really get going, but now it's full time for both of us, and we absolutely love it. It's a fantastic industry, and we're sort of really pleased with how it's all gone.
So yeah, I mean, so when you got these limos, then, so was it specifically just the idea of using them for weddings, or did you use them for other things like like parties or things like that?
Yeah. The Hummer we do use for an awful lot of parties. It's licensed by the council, so we can use that for absolutely any occasion. We do a lot of hen parties, stag parties, and also corporate functions. And the lovely thing about it is children's birthdays, which is great.
Wow.
It's
okay.
We do. You'll have to get your young Leo in there one day.
Yeah, I did not know you do them for parties. That's so for children's parties. They have limos.
Yeah, honestly, we have. It's an hour's hire. We come and pick the children up. The chauffeur is DBS checked, so there's no problems. We don't necessarily have to have an adult in there. Just soft drinks. These days they've got their phones at quite a young age. They can connect their phone to the music system.
Nice.
There's some sweetie packs in there, and they just basically let themselves loose for an hour.
Oh my God.
9 times out of 10, they're well behaved. We don't really have any problems, and they absolutely love it. And they come buzzing. So once they've done that, it's fantastic.
Well, I should imagine you probably have more of a clean-up after a hen party than you do a kid's birthday party.
Oh, absolutely. Hen parties are far more difficult. But there we are. We mustn't go that route.
Yeah. So you've got these 2 limos. So where do you go from here? So you think, I don't know, so you want to go and try the weddings. How did you get yourself out?
Yeah. Well, we bought one Chrysler saloon to match the Chrysler limousine we had. So that was the start of it. And then we realised there was an opening in the area for someone to try and push the weddings. So then we sort of just gradually started to add to them. And then, well, I think, if I'm correct now, I think we've got 18 wedding suitable vehicles. So we've built it up quite nicely, and it's all about trying to get the variation and try and get us right across the park. I mean, in the early days, we did have some fun vehicles. We actually had a mystery machine. We had a Barbie Jeep.
No way.
We had an in-betweeners car. It was all sort of. We really had a lot of fun with it at the start, and now it is obviously it's a lot of fun now, but it's a lot more serious now than it was obviously in the early days.
Absolutely. I mean, you've obviously got the limousine, so you've got the. I think I'm just trying to go from what I remember. The Silver Bell, that's one. And the Imperial ones. I think the Imperial ones, the ones I see the most. They're the ones with the oval window at the back.
Yeah, they're a landaulet type vehicle. They're your traditional sort of wedding vehicle as such. Really, absolutely fabulous. Sort of really 6 passengers, and they got pram-like roofs, so that the pram comes down. It is absolute seconds to open and close. So there's never any sort of travesty with anybody getting wet or anything like that. And they make a fantastic backdrop for the wedding. And obviously the transportation.
I mean, they really do. And as I said, like from a filming point of view, and not just a filming point of view, from a photography point of view, especially in that particular car, when it's a nice sunny day, you've got you can open the back bit open of the car, if you know what I mean. You can open the soft top back, and then they sit there, and then you can get some beautiful shots through that window, or with them looking back out. Do you know what I mean? You must have seen the shot a few times. You must know what I mean.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, all our chauffeurs, they work with yourself and photographers, and I always ask them if they can just get a shot as well, because obviously, the photographer and yourself have set it all up nicely, and we do tend to get our own photographs. The social media side is obviously huge, and we do tend to post obviously with the next day, basically the photographs of the weddings if they want to see them. And the lovely thing about it is obviously with yourself there's editing, and with all the photographers there's editing. So basically the first photographs they see are the ones that we've taken. And because you guys are so professional, it's a professional shot as such, even though it's only obviously done with the chauffeur's phone. But they love that, and it's just a sort of teaser really for when your real stuff comes in.
So, chauffeur-wise, then, do you have many chauffeurs that work for you? I mean, like, if on just say it's a Saturday in July, how many cars have you got out on doing various weddings?
Right, you'll probably be a bit shocked at this, but I think the record we've done is 16.
Wow, 16
in one day, and that's with 16 chauffeurs, obviously.
God.
We don't do more than one wedding a day in a vehicle, so it's honestly the buzz. Our unit is tremendous. The chauffeurs come in about an hour before they need to, because they just love the razzmatazz and all the jovial stuff that goes on, until the seriousness of them getting in the car and then driving. Yeah. So it's lovely, especially when the sun's shining, and because we always hold a chauffeur back, which 9 times out of 10 is me, and we also hold a car back, and the rest of the guys, and it's fantastic to see them come back one by one as they completed the job.
What I love about, especially with the chauffeur side of things, is it's an incredibly important job. It's that time when the bride's got completely ready. She's in the car with whoever's giving her away, if it be her dad or a family member, and that's the point leading from that bridal preparation to the church or to the venue. And them nerves are kicking in, and that's where you need someone like a chauffeur or someone who works for yourself who can say, right, nice and calm. We'll do this, and we'll take the time, and do you know what I mean? You've got to be that person for them, because you probably see it all as I do. On the wedding morning, brides can either be a complete bag of nerves, or one of them, or whoever's giving them away is, and you just need that extra person there to just say, don't worry, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, all our chauffeurs, if I'm honest, I wouldn't say we handpicked them, but we just knew that when we interviewed them that they were suitable for the job, and some of them we actually knew would make great chauffeurs, so we actually went after them as such. But you're right what you say. The bride on the day is obviously going to be nervous. Yeah. If it's her father giving her away, he's going to be nervous. So the first couple of jobs for the chauffeur to do is obviously introduce himself, get a rapport, and then make sure that the bouquet is in the hands. the front door has been locked, just little things like that, because they are things that can get forgotten very, very quickly. It's the times that a bride has got in and she hasn't got a bouquet and the chauffeur has noticed it, and also the father leaving the door open, because it's just excitement. It's excitement and nerves. So we make sure that those two things are done before we drive off.
Well, it's a full-on emotion, isn't it? And I
Yes.
think and you need someone with a clear head who isn't in their nerves, to do that. What I did think is quite interesting about I was having a look on your website, and this is one thing I didn't know that you did. You do like a vanity box, which is quite. Tell me about that.
Well, it's not really my department. That's more Diane's. But basically, there's little things that can go wrong on the day for the bride. A little tear in something, so there's a little sewing kit in there. There's a little nail file in there. There's hand gel, a little bottle of water. Just all things that issues, just things that might be needed that she wouldn't necessarily be carrying.
I absolutely love that.
We introduced it straight away with the first vehicle we had, and it's there has been one of the bride's father did tear his trousers once, and that was quite funny to see. But I was driving that day, and I had to pull over while the bride actually sewed his trousers up with a needle and cotton out the vanity box. So it does work at times, which is brilliant. Hopefully never needed, but it's even little things like obviously tissues, which are used most of the times, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think it's the small little touches like that, the stuff that you don't necessarily think about. And like, I can just imagine though that bride rocking up to her wedding, it's like half an hour late. Why are you late? Oh, don't worry, Dad just ripped his trousers, but we sorted it. And I think that's great. I really do, because you must travel from not all places where you pick the bride up and near to the venue. So if they got halfway down the road, just say it's a 45-minute journey, they got halfway down the road and the dad realised he'd ripped his trousers. You haven't got time to go back, so it's really important. It's just little touches like that, I think, that really make a difference.
Yeah, she made a good job of it, actually, if I'm honest. She was quite nervous, obviously, and was shaking a little bit trying to thread it. But then once that got done, she made a great job of it, and they went happily into the church together. And these little things that happen like that, they're fantastic, because they get repeated later on. And obviously, he would have made his father's speech, and no doubt that would have been involved in it, which is nice.
Well, it's absolutely part of the day, isn't it? And again, he probably would have been ripped by his mates for it, but do you know what? It's part of it. And it's stuff you look back at your wedding, and it's little things like that. You go, do you remember when Dad ripped his trousers on the way to the church? Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that was good.
So on the way then, in the car, then you mentioned previously when you had kids' birthday parties, they can connect their phone and listen to some music in the car. So I'm not necessarily talking about on the way to the church, but just say after they're married and they're going from a church to a venue, they can listen to music in the car?
Yeah, again, they can listen to their own choice of music, but if I'm honest, obviously they're together, so normally it's one of our, we've set the music up so they can just have their own privacy and their own moment. There'll be a glass of bubbly in there for them.
Lovely.
And we also put a packet of love hearts in, just to so they got something to talk about and to perhaps chew on later on when the evening's finished.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, so if I was getting married and I wanted to book a wedding car with yourself, how would you go about doing it? So where do we find you? I mean, obviously you're online, and do you find a lot of your work comes from word of mouth, or is it more social media side?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of word of mouth, but obviously, with the social media, we push ourselves, and Google. Well, the Google searches, they're phenomenal. And we are quite highly ranked, which we've worked on. So if you sort of Google wedding cars Norfolk, wedding cars Norwich, or even wedding cars Suffolk, we're quite prominent, and a lot of inquiries come through that way. We probably get, if I'm honest, probably 8 to 10 inquiries a day, especially this time of year, because obviously now's the time when everybody's booking. The wedding shows have started, We do our own open days. We do a Friday and a Saturday, or a Saturday and a Sunday, and we can see probably 20 people over that weekend. And that's great, because we always recommend that the people or couples come and view the car, because sometimes you book a car and maybe there would have been a better one for you. So if you come and have a look, you can get in them, and you'll meet us, which is like really nice, because obviously you get an idea of us, and you also get a vision of how the car will be presented on the day, which is lovely, because they'll have their own choice of colour for ribbons and bows, because they've obviously got their own colour scheme. So we try to accommodate them as much as we can.
Well, this is actually one thing I was actually going to ask you about, the colours and the ribbons and stuff. So that's something you guys as a company will do, so they can tell you what they want, or do they do it themselves?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, predominantly it's ivy or white ribbons, but then you have there's so many different colours that mean things to people, from obviously the bouquet, other colours in the bouquet. Sometimes even the groom, like he support a football team, and they want the bows in those colours. So we've got a range of colours, which is most of them, to accommodate that request.
So do you, in the morning then, so usually with a wedding I find that if they're going from like bridal preparation in the morning to a venue, does the car usually pick up bridesmaids and take them first, and then they come back for the bride? Is that how it normally works?
There's so many different ways of doing it, really. Obviously, if it's local and it's just at the local church, which could be sort of a mile, 2 miles down the road, then you can probably get away with just using the one vehicle, and you would do that. You'd take the bridesmaids and the mother first, and then you would come back for the bride and obviously the father, or whoever's giving away. But if the distance doesn't allow that, in other words, that you'd need two vehicles as such to obviously get them both there.
Absolutely. And so, is it predominantly Norfolk you work, or do you work in Suffolk, or is it mainly Norfolk?
We do Norfolk and Suffolk. It's probably about 60-40 to Norfolk, because really the Suffolk border isn't that far from here, is it? We've done the occasional one, sort of Cambridgeshire and Essex, but obviously it's we like to stay more local than that sort of distance, to be honest.
I mean, are you based in Norwich? Where are you based?
We're based in Blowfield Heath.
Okay.
We've got all the vehicles here, and we've got easy access, obviously, to the bypass. So it's quite easy to get to Suffolk, and obviously we're in Norfolk anyway.
Yeah, you're in Norfolk.
Yes.
Do you have facility there? Did you say that where people can come and view your cars? Is it quite a big area where you are?
Oh yes, yeah. All the cars will be inside. All the wedding cars will be under one roof. So it's nice to just come round. As I said earlier, they can come and sit in them. They can come and try them out. We start them up, so obviously you can see all the lights on the limousines and that sort of thing. And I can't recommend it enough. It's lovely to come out, and you've got that box ticked. So I'd recommend that to everybody, really.
It's more of a personal touch, I think, and it's kind of similar in a way with what I do with videography in some respects, because I always think if I'm going to spend the day with someone filming their wedding, it's lovely to kind of meet them and kind of get a feel for what they like and what they're about on the day. And I think that's similar in a way with what you do with the vehicles they want to hire, and you can get an idea when they turn up and say, well, we want to book a wedding vehicle. What do you recommend? And then maybe you can, talk to them and ask them what sort of things they like, and you get an idea, don't you, after a certain amount of time with someone?
Yeah, you do. And as we write through the sheet of what they actually want, then we could probably advise on something maybe that they didn't even think of. And obviously, if we can save them money by just having the one vehicle instead of two or three, it helps. Because obviously, as you know, the groom has got to be there quite a long time before the bride, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour.
Yeah.
So we could possibly take the groom's party in and then go back for the bridal party.
Yeah.
So there are ways of, and we're honest with people. We do tell people that. Why do you need two cars? You might as well just have the one to pick the grooms up, and then obviously the bridal party.
So wedding shows then, do you do many wedding shows throughout the year?
We try to do as many wedding shows as we can. It's all about, as you know yourself, you've got to keep your profile sort of out there, vibrant. So we do try to do as many shows as we can. Obviously, we try to support the venues as well. So it's sort of six of one and a half a dozen of another, sort of doing things for each other, really.
I think it's about building a good relationship with different places as well, as you said, like the venues.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And we're all in it together, aren't we? And obviously, if you've worked with certain people, if you work with certain venues, you know them, you get to know how they do things, and then you can build that team together. Because it's a teamwork at the end of the day, That's what I think.
Well, it is, and it's lovely when we work with people like yourself and some of the photographers that we know, because it is a team, because we all know how each other works to a certain extent, and we're just making life simpler, not only for us, but for the bride and groom as well.
Yeah. So, bit of a weird question for you now. So, how did you guys cope during the COVID times? How did that affect business?
It was dreadful. It was heartbreaking, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Without going into it too much, obviously the wedding industry in England didn't get a lot of assistance.
No,
so, that was a bit of a disaster, and it was heartbreaking because we actually, yourself, if you leave a car just standing in one position for a long while, it doesn't do it any good. So, sort of once a week, we just had to start them all up or push them and just move them, a couple of feet to actually take the pressure off the tyre point. But we do have another side as well. We developed we do a lot of executive chauffeuring, which did go on to a certain extent, taking people, because no one wants to go on public transport. And also we've got a school side, and a lot of the school side we do is sort of handicapped children or disadvantaged children, and they still went on during COVID. They because they several reasons those sort of schools stayed open, so we did still have some work as such.
Because, at the end of the day, as you said, there is still schools and stuff that needed to stay open. I know it was a horrible, dangerous time, but yeah, it affected everything. And I remember, I think I might have told this story already once on the show, but I remember it was the day before we went into lockdown. I was at a wedding at Southwood Hall. I don't know if you know Southwood Hall. And there was,
fabulous venue.
Yeah, and I was with a photographer, and there was starting to be rumbles on the news about what's happening, what's coming up. And this photographer turned to me. This was in March. I think we locked down in March. I think it was March or April time. And he said, "I reckon this is going to be the last wedding of the season." And I was like, "No, don't be silly. This is March." And then obviously the next day, complete lockdown. And I was like, and then we didn't go back then for about a year. And that was a tough time. Yeah. That was a really tough time. I think everyone within the wedding industry really, really felt it. And then when I went back, that first wedding back, we only had I think 15 guests were allowed at this wedding, and everyone was wearing a mask, and it was quite a sad state of affairs, really. But we seem to have got through it, and we're on the other side, which is fantastic. But it was a tough time for everyone, So I feel
it was awful. But you said earlier there, we didn't really get a lot of help from the government. There wasn't much out there for the wedding industry, which in Scotland they did, but for some reason, they didn't want to support us, and there were a few that never came through it, unfortunately, because obviously it was tough times.
Absolutely, and I've spoken to some suppliers on this show who started various parts of their business literally a month before we went into lockdown, because obviously they didn't know it was coming, and then it affected everyone. So tough times, but we're through it. We're through it, and that's the main thing, Kevin. We're through it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about wedding industry awards, not just wedding industry awards. You guys have won various different awards. Talk to me about how you got into those and what you've won. Tell us all about it.
Well, the wedding industry awards, which we think is that's the main awards really for the wedding industry. We first entered that in 2015. We'd only been going sort of 3 years, but we just sort of said we'd have a little go. And we surprised ourselves really when we actually won the regional event. And that was lovely to go down to London for the national finals. We didn't win, unfortunately, but we enjoyed everything about it. We enjoyed actually being part of it. So we decided to, sort of keep going really, and we were lucky enough to win the regional 3 times on the trot, but still didn't get the nationals. But in 2018, we did win the national award, and 2019. We won it again, so they were very kind to us, and they turned around and they made us judges.
Wow!
So we now judge the transport side for the Wedding Industry Awards.
And how's that like? I mean, so obviously these are awards that are. So you just judge the regional side, or do you judge the national side as well?
No, we actually the national. That was actually last week. That was lovely because Diane and I went down. We stayed over, and they have a little cocktail party for all the judges an hour before the actual award ceremony start. And what is also lovely is that we met 3 or 4 of representatives from different industries, from different wedding industries that were actually up for awards that night.
Oh wow!
And 3 of them done very, very well. They all got highly commended, which was lovely.
That is really nice. And do you ever, when you're judging then, so I know we're kind of going a little bit off topic, but we're not in a way, but when you're judging these other car suppliers, do you look at what they're doing? Do you think maybe this is something I could borrow? Or do they look at you and think, well, maybe we could borrow this idea? Do you kind of obviously talk to each other about things that you're doing and all new different trends?
Yeah, I mean, the what I did love about the wedding awards when in the early days when we were sort of in the finals competing, was we actually got such a great friendship with the other people we were up against.
Yeah,
and that's so we weren't really against each other. It was just we just went down there. We all even as they announced the transport winner, we was all standing by each other because we was all and then there was give each other a bit of stick and all the rest of it, and you parted with whoever won it, and that was fabulous. But now obviously it's a little bit different because when you judge, you have to step back a little bit, and you can't be quite involved with obviously the people that are the contenders for it.
Absolutely. And
obviously you have to remain impartial. I mean, we've made our decision on who we think should win it, but but we have to stay impartial for everybody, really.
Yeah, and I think that's lovely. I mean, I think it's nice that you're considered that level now where you can judge. Well, obviously, you went through the nationals, you won it twice. Obviously, the region. I think that's amazing. That must be a real honour to be a judge. And obviously,
it is, and we actually love the Wedding Industry Awards. It's even as we're judging, we still look. Just the transport side, we still look at all the other competitors there and all the other sort of industries that are involved, because it's just lovely to see, especially when you get people from our area that are contenders for the national awards. It's terrific. It's just and we cheer them on as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to do now, Kevin, is I'm going to hand you across to Leo. You may have listened to some of the other shows we've done. Leo is my son. He's 10 years old. As obviously you mentioned him at the beginning, he would be great at one of these birthday parties with your car.
Absolutely. We will sort that out. We've got to sort that out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, he's here. He's got a question he wants to ask you now. I don't know what he's going to ask you. So you never know, Leo. But I'm going to hand over to you now, and he's going to ask you this question, and then we'll go from there, if that's all right, Kevin.
Okay, absolutely.
Have you ever had any bookings from celebrities?
Hi, Leo. Thanks for getting involved. Right, okay, tricky one that, because obviously some of these things should say a little bit private, but we have had some celebrities. I will say that the first one that we had, which wasn't so much a celebrity, but it's a well-known character, is we've done the opening of the McDonald's at Brundall, and we had a Captain Jack impersonator.
Oh, okay.
And he was absolutely fantastic. We took him in the Hummer, and we had obviously Pirates of the Caribbean music playing in the background, and he went down an absolute storm. obviously, I had to have my photograph taken with him, which went a bit
Of
mad
course.
on social media.
Yeah.
But probably the biggest name that we've had is quite recently. Last summer, we chauffeured Mr. Bublé.
Oh, wow. Really?
I hope you know who he is, Leo, but your father definitely will. Okay, but
Wow.
yeah, we chauffeured him at Blickling Hall. So that's probably the biggest name we've had.
Thanks for answering that, Kevin. I mean, just quickly, just going off from that question, when you have a celebrity then, like Mr. Bublé in your limo, you know, he's booked your limo, are your chauffeur drivers kind of fighting about who wants to take him? Is it kind of like, oh, I want to take him, you know, you did the last sort of one? Is it like that?
Well, we actually the thing was he was appearing at Blickling Hall, and they wanted a spot to pick him up and take him into Blickling. And obviously he's got his entourage with him, so there was about 5 people, 6 people in the minibus.
Yeah.
But he was really nice, and the thing is the chauffeur was backstage with him, and the whole thing. And the lovely thing about it, Carl was driving, my son, and the big plus was because he had Mr. Bublé in the car. He had to be first off the premises, so they held all the crowd back while Kyle drove Michael Bublé away from Blickling Hall, and obviously he was home quite early, so that was a good result for him.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. So he's like, I've got an early night tonight, just take him home and then I'm off. Yeah, love it.
Well, you know, I mean, we all know what the crowds can be like coming out of Blickling Hall. That can be, you can be an hour trying to come out of there, but because they held everybody back and let him go, that was a lovely result.
Yeah. So, what is the next big purchase for Silverline? Have you got anything in mind that you want to get next?
I think if I'm honest, the next car will be it will be more for the executive side.
Okay.
We've done so much executive chauffeuring at Christmas. We have been out and looked at a couple of possible candidates, as in the cars. But that's probably going to be the next purchase.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you, and you know.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And it was lovely to meet Leo.
Yes, thank you for.
And I look forward to him having a little party in the Hummer. We'll sort that out.
Absolutely, yeah. He's an October birthday like myself, so maybe me and him could do something together. That might be quite good fun.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, we'll do.
So, Kevin, all the best. Have a fantastic wedding season. I'm sure I'll catch up with you at some point this year. I mean, as I said, we've got some wedding fairs coming up together, and obviously at weddings. So I will see you this year, and obviously your lovely wife as well, Diane.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks again for having us on. Really appreciate it. All the very
Take
best.
care, Kevin. All the best. Take care.
See you then.
Cheers.
Bye.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure and joy to talk to you as always, and always great to hear what Silverline are up to. Again, as I said, it's hard to not go to a wedding in Norfolk without seeing a Silverline limo or car. So yeah, fantastic. So obviously next week, guys, is episode 8. I can't tell you too much about it. I will tell you it's going to be a tasty episode. So I don't know, take that as you will. But yeah, I will see you next week. Also, Leo will be back. Thanks again, Leo, by the way, for this week. Your question was awesome. So yeah, without further ado, guys, I will see you next week. Stay safe, stay warm, and yeah, book your wedding and have some fun. See you later. See you on the Wed-Cast next Wednesday.